Welcome to another exciting edition of the Million Dollar Peddlers. I'm Paper Guy.
And I'm Mr. Magazine.
And to the new subscribers that have come to the channel or anybody that stumbles across this, I'm Paper Guy. I've got 40,000 items up on eBay and Amazon, sell out of the house, one-man band. So I try to give you things from that perspective.
I'm Mr. Magazine with a big warehouse, 500,000 items, and 15 employees.
So we've got a couple of different perspectives coming at us. And today we're going to talk about, well, I wrote down on the show notes, stay in your lane. And that runs contrary to what a lot of other people will tell you. And a lot of it does depend upon your own situation. But I am a big fan, as time goes on, of specialization. And you tend to specialize. What do you primarily sell?
Well, magazines would be number one.
Oh, hence your name, Mr. Magazine. Nice job.
But I've always been involved in sports, collectibles, sports cards, comic books, things like that.
Toys,
record albums I stumbled across years ago, so I have a ton of those as well. But a little bit of everything, but I'll dabble in things, but those are my niche for the most part.
Well, let me ask you this. When do you dabble?
When opportunity presents itself.
But you don't go out of your way to dabble.
No, definitely not. I wouldn't go to like an estate sale and say, "Oh, there's an accordion. I'm going to buy that."
You know what's funny? I was just thinking accordion because you have purchased accordions before because
exactly.
they've come
into my shop. Yeah, exactly.
And you can take a look online and say, "Okay, this is a $250 accordion,"
right,
and make an offer accordingly, and then you can sell it as a one-off.
Exactly. In the anvils, that's another thing. I would never go to an estate sale saying, "I want to buy that 40-pound anvil," but I did purchase a collection through my shop.
So I guess what it comes down to is, although we don't tend to, and it is a fault of ours, but we don't tend to use Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or any of that. But if somebody were to send you one of those, and it was a good magazine collection, you'd be looking into it and you'd be calling.
Absolutely.
If it was a China collection, you're not looking into it, you're not calling, you don't have any particular interest. But if it walked into your store and it was $10 for 1,000 pieces of China, even though you don't want to deal in it, you would.
It'd have to be a collection of something. So if someone brought a couple pieces in that's breakable or dolls or something like that, I probably wouldn't buy them. But if it was something worthwhile, large enough, I would.
And I know he's a good friend of the channel, Primetime. I know that he, Primetime Treasure Hunter, check him out. He's down below in the Friends of the Channel area. Do subscribe, check his videos out. They're great. I know he always talks about trying to expand, trying to get into different areas, and he has made it a goal for himself, and that's wonderful, and he seems to be doing well on it. What's funny, and this is why eBay and selling online is such a great thing, is I'm doing the exact opposite. But I'm not right and he's not right. It all depends upon your own situation.
Yeah, what works for you. Yeah.
But here's my thought on it. When I say comic book dealer, who comes to mind as like the biggest comic book dealer out there?
Oh, Mr. Mile High.
Mile High Comics, yep. Chuck from Mile High Comics. He's probably not tomorrow going to be seeking out furniture to sell.
No.
There's a reason for that. He's selling comic books, he's selling comic magazines, he sells the some of the limited edition statues and all that stuff, but it's all within the comic realm. He's not going to go out and seek out furniture. He's not going to suddenly take a 180 and say, "You know what I really need to sell? Hummels."
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen. And there's a reason why, because he has the niche in comics. People shop him for comics. And as I was explaining to you before the show, if you or I went out and we bought just any random item, a trumpet, I'm going to list the trumpet. It's going to sell if I price it right, everything like that. But nobody looks for trumpets for me.
Right.
And here's the other issue that I see with expanding into areas that you don't know, that you don't think you can regularly get into. Now, there's nothing wrong with expanding into a different area if you plan to make it a niche.
Well, that's the thing. You say I buy a trumpet, it comes through my shop, and I make $100 on it. I'm not going to start looking for trumpet collections. It's one of those things that came through, made some money.
You made your $100.
I moved back to what
quick
I
hitter, and now you're back to
exactly,
right. Yeah. Where I'm wrong and where I'm actually trying to move a little bit, yet it's still kind of a niche tied into the paper stuff that I sell, is trying to get into the original art area. I'm going out and I'm buying that from Heritage or other places when I'm able to find it cheap. And I'm getting into it and I'm expanding into original art. Yet I've always had some art and prints up. And it is made out of paper, so it's not a complete departure from what I'm usually selling.
Right.
But what I'm finding is the more that I'm specializing, the more that I'm selling paper, and just paper as a general rule, unless the deal is unbelievable, the more money I'm getting for it. The more that I'm learning it, the more that I know about paper. There is this saying, which you probably heard, the jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
You can do, you're the handyman. Nothing wrong with being the handyman.
Right.
You can do a little bit across, but you limit what you can do versus if you're a master electrician.
Right. Sure.
The specialty person always gets more within that genre. You just absolutely do. So if I were to buy a trumpet and I list it, I'm not Mr. Trumpet. I'm not trumpet going. I'm paper going. So people come to me to look for paper items.
Yeah.
So absolutely nothing wrong with trying to expand. Obviously try to know a lot about a lot of different things. Just the general thing about it. Know the brands, know the expensive brands, all that kind of thing.
Yep.
Now, I don't do purses, and you've always got the problem of fakes and knockoffs or watches or all that.
Definitely.
But let's leave fakes out of it. Name a watch brand.
Rolex.
High-end. Rolex. There you go. Rolex. Patek.
Patek.
All those kind of things. Obviously, if I were at a sale somewhere and it's, sitting down at the bottom of a box, it's just a dirty old watch that they don't have any idea. Okay, I've heard of that brand before. I'm going to buy that.
Right.
But I'm not going to get deep enough into the weeds on watches to know all the good watches, know this, know that. And if I'm buying a Rolex, for example, you're going to be buying it from me less than what it's worth because I don't know enough about it. I paid $1 for it.
Yep.
I'm happy getting $1,000 out of it, even if it might be a $3,500 watch to a watch collector.
Exactly.
I don't care. I have $1 into it. I'm more than happy selling it for $1,000. And I don't know what all to check. Does this work? Does that work? Is this on it? Is the crown? Is it? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. What you see is what you get. I'm selling it as is because it's not worth me doing hours and hours and hours worth of studying on watches for a one-time sale.
Exactly.
Just not worth it.
Exactly.
But paper, I don't have to do hours and hours and hours of studying in because I know it. Magazines, you don't have to do the same thing because you know it. If I came in with a box of magazines to sell you, I'm assuming you just do a quick run through.
That's it. Yeah. Price per. That's it.
But you're going through and you know what's good and what's not good.
Yeah. And I know there may be nothing really good in there, but they could all be worth $20. Or if it's say the Bruce Springsteen time, and they're all times, I'm going to look for that one.
Yeah. Yep. So you know that right off the bat.
Right.
If I bring in a box of watches, beyond the main brands, like beyond Patek, beyond Rolex, et cetera, you don't know some brand from 1942 that actually is a $5,000 watch, but it's some little known brand. You don't know that.
Right. For $1, I might buy it.
For $1, you're going to.
If I know it's old and vintage, and I can't lose a buck.
But the guy comes in with 10 watches. He goes, $1,000, you're getting a steal. You may very well be getting a steal. Maybe a $25,000 collection, but you don't want to tie $1,000 into it without doing a lot of research.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas if a guy came to me with a paper collection and said $1,000, you're getting a steal. And I looked through it and like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here's your $1,000.
I've seen enough. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah. When I'm 2 items in and I'm going, okay, here's your money.
Yep.
So is it a good idea to expand? I think a lot of that depends upon your own situation. Another reason not to expand into different categories for us, do you have anything unlisted?
Oh, yeah.
Roughly how many items do you have unlisted?
Ooh, 500,000.
And I probably have 40,000 unlisted items. My 40,000 unlisted items, 35,000 to 38,000 of them are paper, which is what I sell. Probably 38,000 of them are paper. I'm thinking I do have some CDs, but other than that, it's paper. It's 38,000 paper items that I've bought and paid for that I can list. Is it really worth my time to get into costume jewelry at this point?
No.
When I get those 38,000 items listed and I say, I've always liked costume jewelry,
Yeah.
then it's a different story.
Right.
But until that point, there is no incentive for me to move into different areas. Yes, have enough of an overall idea of things with the brands and all that you say, okay, I've never heard of that car, and that's a hubcap from a car, and I don't know when hubcaps came out, but that looks like a really old hubcap, and they want $2 on it. Yes, at that point, obviously, you're risking $2. Worst case, you use it as an ashtray. I don't know, or you throw it in your unlisted pile. It doesn't really matter at that point. But you're not going to go out and seek out a gigantic hubcap collector's collection, because you're not going to get maximum money out of it.
No.
Because you're not known for selling hubcaps. You're going to leave a lot of money on the table. Do you know how to ship a hubcap? I'm thinking priority, but some kind of padding. But if it's one of those ones with all those little spokes on it, how do you protect those? I don't know.
I bought a bunch of years ago, and I ended up I donated them to a local auction. I go, just get rid of these things. Never going to list them.
So there's nothing wrong with expanding what you're into, but you also need to take a look at where you're at currently. Do you have a niche you're making good money at? Do you have unlisted items within that niche that you can already make good money at? If so, don't go out into something or other that's way out in left field compared to what you already sell. And if you are expanding into a niche, like I'll give you another quick example. You are expanding into a niche of graded comics and magazines.
True.
However, that is an extension of what you're already selling.
Yep.
It would be just like Mile High Comics selling non-sports cards with Marvel non-sports cards.
Yeah.
Yes, it ties into what he's already selling.
Right.
So that would be my advice to you today, is if you have a lot of unlisted items within the niche that you're already in, worry about those and know enough about other things that when an absolute killer deal comes along, you know enough to buy it, but don't get deep into the weeds in something that you don't already know. Until next video. Oh, do hit the, I always tend to forget, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, although I'm expecting you probably have, and do comment down below your thoughts on that. We always like a little bit of spirited debate, and we do respond to every comment. So this should be, get some pretty good comments, hopefully, and be able to go back and forth with people on their opinion. So we will see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.